Good morning, George Hepworth here, Grover Park Consulting. Let's build Mike's mobile library. Up to this point, we have created one screen, which is the option screen that will be used to support our theming, our color theming for the application, basically to differentiate between production and development versions of the application. We added our data sources. So we now have all of the SharePoint lists connected to the app and the Azure Blob storage account connected. And in previous videos, I gave you a look at the way the tables are set up and defined, so you know how that part will work. Our next step is going to be to start creating the screens for the actual functions that we need in this application. We're going to start with the Start menu. Logic place to start is at Start. That screen is called Screen Startup in the production version. So we're going to create a new screen here in the development version to support it. You can do that in a couple of different ways. From the Insert menu, we can insert a new screen. This one will be a blank screen because it's going to be basically a blank canvas on which we place a series of labels or buttons to serve as the menu options for our functions. So let's go ahead and do that. Add a blank screen. It takes the default name, Screen 1, and we're going to go ahead and rename it Startup, which is the same name as the initial screen in the production version. Now notice that it falls in second position when we do it this way. And at this point we can actually go back and look at our Navigate to Start screen, which was new just a few days ago. This will be the first chance I'll have to actually implement it. I'm going to indicate that I want Startup screen to be the start screen. Under the old approach, options would have actually been the initial screen you would see when you start the application because it came at the top of the navigation list. This allows us to specify whichever screen we want, regardless of where it sits in the navigation list. And it also works in conjunction with the OnStart event. I won't go into that again in a lot of depth. But basically the idea here is that it takes the startup screen out of the OnStart and allows you to show it while the OnStart is processing other actions. So now we have our startup screen, and I'm going to do what I always do, which is save regularly. With our application saved, we're ready to start copying objects from the startup screen in the production version to the startup screen in the development version. Okay, then let's go to the production version on my other monitor. Select all of the items. Do a copy and a paste. It took a little bit longer than I anticipated. We got them. So let's move these up into position and take a look at what we have. First of all, we notice that the color scheme reflects the original production, dark blue. So I'm going to have to change that. I'm also seeing several errors. These would reflect, I believe, we'll edit it, but I believe these will reflect the fact that there are navigation directives to screens that don't yet exist. And that will be true for all of these. So let's start by going to our OnStart macro, our OnStart event, still thinking Access, not PowerApps. We're going to change the label fill color from the production version to the test or development version. So we're going to pick up our color for the fill from the orange on the options screen. Notice that immediately these fills change to black because we have lost the value of this variable by commenting it out, and we have not yet run the onStart macro to reset that variable to the new color. When I do that, you'll see then, of course, that it does update. Now we have the orange that we want for our development environment. This icon didn't move to exactly the right spot. I'll move it there. I'll come back in the next video and complete the responsive layout settings for the X and Y height and width properties of each of these controls as part of the next video. Right now, my final step in getting this option screen set up, next to final step I should say, is to select a background image. You'll notice that the library did not make the journey from production to development. On the right hand side of the screen we have the properties pane. One of the properties for this screen, we're looking at the screen, one of the properties is a background image. Right now it's set to none. I can either add an image from Windows Explorer, or I can select one of the two images which I've already imported. I imported the library image into this environment in preparation for this step, and I imported the GPC logo, which is in this icon here, in preparation for this step. Okay, so if I click this option to add an image file, it opens the Window Explorer dialog, takes me to, in this case I've pre-selected my images folder. I can select any of these images to add as the background image. I won't do that because I've already loaded in the library image that I want to use. That places that image into the fill as the background for this screen. With that, we have two more steps. First, I have to add screens for each of the other functions in the application. And then as the last step, we will come back and set it up as a responsive layout. And I showed you that in the previous video where we offset each of the controls on a screen by setting its X and Y height and width properties in relationship to controls above and to the left of it so that they all move together. Not 100% responsive the way we normally think of it, but very definitely better than individually dragging controls back and forth. I'm going to pause the video while I create the additional screens necessary, and then we'll conduct that last step. Okay, then we have all the screens created. These are all blank screens. They have nothing on them. I created them only to have placeholders so that my errors in this startup screen would be resolved. The app checker shows that there are no more errors, and if I select any one of the navigation buttons, it indicates that the value of the navigate to screen option is a valid screen. Okay. As you can see here, I have gone ahead and put in the other screens. These are all blank screens. There's nothing on any of them. If I click down and select them, the name updates, of course, in the properties pane, but there's nothing on them. However, that does resolve the errors we were getting with these navigation buttons. And the app checker says that we have no more errors, so we're good to go. Let's wrap up today's session at this point. In the next session, I will apply the X, Y coordinates and the width and height coordinates to each of these items on this menu screen or this startup screen so that they will respond as a unit if I need to adjust any width or height or space or location. As always, if you like what you see, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to my channel. Come back later and look at more videos. And if you have any suggestions or comments on what you've seen here today or any previous video, please drop those comments and I will try to incorporate them as much as possible into future videos. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time.